For how much Pedal Powered Kayaks cost, there better be some significant pros versus cons, right? I've done the research on both Pedal Powered Kayaks and Paddle Powered Kayaks, so I'm gonna run through what I found and you can decide for yourself if the hype is worth the cash. All right, so I'm gonna be hopping back and forth, pro, con, and by the end of the video, I want you to tell me where you landed. Worth the money? Not worth the money. I want you to let me know in the comments below. All right, let's get things started. Let us start off on a positive note, non-stop fishing. One of the reasons I love my Pedal Powered Kayak over my Paddle Powered Kayak is because I have hands-free fishing, which allows me to have non-stop fishing. I've gone paddle powered kayaking before. 30% of the time, I feel like I'm just battling the wind, trying to position myself into the spot where I actually want to fish. So with a pedal powered kayak, I'm actually able to move hands-free. And then if I do need to move directions, it's just a flick of the rudder control. At the end of the day, I'm out here to catch fish, and if I'm paddling 20 to 30% of the time, that's 20 to 30% of the time my lure is not in the water. Let's move on to a con. The elephant in the room on this thing is the price. Because this guy right here, they all include some type of pedal powered system, and you also have rudder and steering expansions. So a lot of times that right there will cost just about an extra $1,000. And to be honest with you, that's a deal breaker for some of you, and I understand that, no big deal. At the end of the day, I believe that you can catch a fish riding a pool noodle. In fact, if you ever caught a fish riding pool noodle, please let me know in the comments below. Heck, that could be its own YouTube channel. All right, I'm getting off track here. Con, they're expensive. All right, let's move into another pro, which is really important to me, is that you could fish higher winds. And what this means, you can be out in the water in scenarios that would be very difficult if you're a paddle powered fisherman. I was actually out last Saturday and I checked the wind report and it was 12 to 15 mile per hour wind, which is at the top of my limit. If I was in a paddle powered yak, it would have taken me forever. I would have never made the decision to go all the way across the lake, and I would have never caught these pre-spawn water ponies. For me, hands-free fishing and being able to fish in higher winds are huge advantages for my fishing game. Move on to the next con, more maintenance issues. Guys, everything you see here is a moving part, which can break. I've seen propellers break. I've seen lower assemblies and upper assemblies need completely replaced. A lot of times these things squeak. A lot of times the gears are crunching, and so a lot of issues with the motor. And also, a lot of times these will break, will snap, your rudder systems. This right here, a lot of times you'll have issues with the steering assembly and you'll need to replace these. These are not cheap. I feel like everything with a kayak is like 4 times as expensive as it needs to be. A lot of times guys have issues with their steering here, so they'll have to completely replace these. Mo money, mo problems. And the reality is I like to DIY a lot of my things on my kayak, but some things you just can't DIY and it's gonna cost you. I'm hit with the next pro, more power. Another reason anglers believe that pedal powered yaks are worth the money is you simply have more power. One, the yak is now powered by the strongest muscle in your body, your legs over your arms, and because you're able to move from something to nothing much quicker. And the ability to move quick is helpful in 3 different ways. One of the things I do whenever I hook set a bass, I start backpedaling my yak right away, which helped me decrease any slack line and keep that bass spitting my lure. Another thing I often get myself in trouble in is whenever I'm changing out a lure, tying a knot, a lot of times the wind will blow my yak into a tree and I'll get too close and I'll realize at the last second and need that power to get out of that scenario quickly. And sometimes whenever I'm kayaking, I'll see a stump at the last second and I will need some quick power to pivot to get around that so I don't end up hitting it. Here's a con. No one told me this. Look, you can actually see right now. Time spent cleaning the prop, but I'm not talking about line that gets caught under there. Oh, look at that, fishing line, which you have to do sometimes. I'm talking about when this is underneath the boat and when that propeller is underwater, it's gonna get caught up on a ton of vegetation. I fish up here in Canton, Ohio. You may better know it as the Caribbean of the Midwest, but a lot of times I like fishing this one lake, and it's great here in the spring, but give it a month or two and it's gonna be full of weeds, which makes using a paddle powered kayak a little more difficult. It only takes a few seconds to do it, but it's annoying when you gotta do it like 30 times a day. I mean, this thing is a weed magnet. Now, I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you are thinking about buying a kayak. And one of the things that I didn't take into consideration when buying my fishing kayak is whether or not I wanted to start trolling. Now, I've trolled before just goofing around. It was never an actual strategy for me. But trolling for fish can be a ton of fun, especially if you need a little break. And that's why I purchased these guys right here, the Yak Attack Pro Omega rod holders for your kayak. These things are really easy to use. Basically a lock and load. You can put them at a variety of different angles. And once you lock them in, as you can see here, you pull up, they do not come out, and they're super sturdy. All you gotta do is simply throw your rod in there and boom, you are good to go. And what I do if I'm coming short up on bass for whatever reason, I just need a break, I'll throw some crankbaits on there and start trolling around. You'd be surprised what you picked up. Pick up perch, I picked up around 12 crappie yesterday. You pick up largemouth bass, I've even picked up some catfish. So a great way to fish, especially if you get tired of fishing maybe 5 hours straight. All right, here's a con for you. No surprise here that this thing is much heavier than that thing. My Native Slayer Propel 10 weighs around 65 pounds bare. And when you add all this extra stuff, which is a ton of weight, it gets really heavy really fast. And the thing is, it's awkward weight. So if it's one thing if you're just leaving it in the water at your pond, it's another thing you have to pick this thing up, put it on the back of your trailer, and move it from pond to pond to pond. So something to think about. Here's a pro for you. This thing will free up some serious energy, especially if you have a long fishing trip planned. I know I have a trip planned 4 days, 12 hours a day coming up here just in a few weeks. I know you're jealous, right? You might be thinking, how do you get away for 4 days? You have kids. Well, my amazing wife is graciously allowing me to do that. I really hope she's watching this video. All right, another con is sometimes you can get your line caught in the prop. I'm not just talking about like other people's lines who can't seem to throw it in the trash and decide to throw it in the bottom of the lake. I'm talking about when you're actually fishing and a fish dives below your boat and then could potentially get caught in your prop. To be honest, it doesn't happen very often, and the better you are with handling a fish, it shouldn't happen at all, but if you're new, it could happen to you, so something to think about. Here's a pro, this thing's faster. Here's a fun fact. The average paddle kayaker will kayak at around 2 miles an hour. And the average mile per hour that you'll get on a pedal powered kayak is 3 to 4 miles an hour. And you can always burst for faster speeds, but that's what you're going to get sustained. We all have our favorite spots. I have one nearby that it takes me in my pedal powered kayak 15 minutes to get there, just to start fishing. Now, if I were to have a paddle powered kayak, it could take me around 25 to 30 minutes. So that alone allows me to have my lure in the water 15 more minutes every time I go fishing because I have a pedal powered kayak. All right, guys, if you're getting value, please take a crack at that like button and let's move into the next con. It might not be too surprising, but these things are not great for shallow water or rivers. You'll end up snapping off one of your prop blades if you try to take a run down a shallow river. That's where these things come into play, which are really nice because it doesn't really matter because you don't have this hanging out the bottom of your boat. And here's a pro, because you're twice as quick, it's going to allow you to do a couple things. Number one, it's going to allow you to, on larger bodies of water, investigate places that you never would have because they've always been too far away from your load-in. And another reason the pedal powered kayak is nice because sometimes the wind will spin up later in the day and you might be pretty far away from your load-in, which allows, if you have a little extra power, it's going to allow you a much easier ride back home. All right, the moment of truth. Are pedal powered kayaks worth the cash? Please let me know in the comments below. If you love this video, you're going to love this one of my most popular 9 kayak fishing mistakes I made and you should avoid.